All right, Keith Costa's spring previews continue alphabetically ticking through the league, and today in the Keystone State for the Phillies and the Bucks. Keith, take it away.
Yeah, guys, we'll start with the Phillies here, and you think back to last season, they were rolling through about the first 2 months. You look at the splits, they got off to their best 53-game start in team history. All of those highlighted numbers through that point in the season were the best in the majors, and we picked that date, guys, because they didn't start their first 3-game losing streak of the season until May 26th. From that point forward, 57 and 52, still finished with 95 wins, second most in the majors behind the Dodgers, but just didn't quite look like the same team over the last 4 months, rather, as they did the first 2 months. Now, you think about their offseason this year, guys. They have so much money on the books. I know we talked about this yesterday, but $125 million coming off the books after this season. So you figure they'll be a little more active next offseason than they have been so far this winter. Their deals so far on the Major League roster, 3 one-year deals for Jordan Romano, Max Kepler, and Joe Ross. And the trade for Jesus Luzardo, to me, is the most intriguing move. And you think about the rotation they've now put together, guys. Obviously, the 2 horses at the top, Nola and Wheeler, first and second in innings pitched since they linked up as teammates 5 seasons ago. Wheeler ended on a fantastic run last season, 2 runs or fewer in his last 12 starts. Christopher Sanchez, I don't know if people outside of Philadelphia appreciate what this guy's been since he rejoined the rotation in June of 2023. Top 10 among NL pitchers in innings and ERA. The Phillies have more rotation innings than anybody but Seattle over that stretch. Ranger Suarez, first-time All-Star last year, fell off a little bit in the second half, but excellent numbers through that first half of the season when the Phillies were rolling like we talked about. And Luzardo, the previous 2 seasons before missing all of last year, one of the most promising left-handers in the game, almost 11 strikeouts per 9. Solid ERA over 50 starts there with the Marlins. And you think about who they've got waiting in the wings, guys. Andrew Painter, we've been talking about this guy forever, missed all of 2023 with Tommy John, came back to pitch in the AFL for 6 starts this fall, and was just like he's been in the minors there. And if you get this far down the depth, pretty nice to have a couple guys with almost 300 starts combined sitting in long relief that could jump into the rotation. Now, we talked about Jordan Romano at the back end of the bullpen. He had elbow surgery in the middle of last season, back throwing in the mid-90s this year. If he can get back to those numbers from the previous 3 seasons, that's obviously a big boost to the back end of their bullpen. Jose Alvarado, also a bounce-back candidate down there to go along with Kirk Green and Strom, some of the guys that have been consistent performers for them. And the lineup, guys, like we talked about with that payroll situation, it's basically the same group coming back, save for Max Kepler. So the question to me, this is a team that seems to run the same group out, or at least want to run the same group out every single night. Can those 3 left-handers in the bottom half of the lineup, Kepler, Marsh, and Stott, handle left-handed pitching? They have good platoon partner options on the bench, and Mundo Sosa, Weston Wilson, Johan Rojas. But to me, I think you want those guys in there maybe more than they were capable of being last season. Marsh and Stott in particular struggle with left-handed pitching. So we know what the deal is with the Phillies, guys. They've been one of the better teams in the league since Rob Thompson took over back in 2022. How do we project the Phillies in that crowded NL East this year?
Well, I know that Harold and I both agree that it's Phillies, Braves, Braves, Phillies on your Quinella box to win the division. They're clearly the strongest overall teams. And I think that they've established so much depth in their starting pitching ranks with Ross, Kerkering to a lesser degree as a starter, Taijuan Walker, if he can rebound, that maybe if they feel like they need another right-handed bat off the bench at the deadline, they can turn starting pitching into that. They're good, man. I mean, there's just no 2 ways about it. This is a team capable of winning 95-plus games and winning a division title.
They're more left than I thought, though. Showing that lineup and looking at it,
yeah,
Keith's points. A little bit. And it's not just left-handers like Bryce Harper's going to hit anybody. I'm still a little concerned about will Marsh hit lefties.
Yeah.
How consistent will Stott be? You know, and maybe that comes with time. I don't know. But that's a concern to figure out. The one thing, the Phillies just disappear for like too long a period of times. They'll go away for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it costs them the season. That's what's happened the last 3 years. They got to figure out to make the full run from spring to win the World Series. They can't have those lulls where you disappear for 2 weeks and you go, what team is this?
Yeah. They did not look like the same team in August and September of last year than they did before that, for sure. So if things we think are optimistic in that part of Pennsylvania is in terms of baseball, on the shores of the Allegheny, Keith, not so much.
Yeah, well, it started off okay for the Pirates. They were 48-48 at the break, ended up 10 games under 500 in the second half. So you think about some guys that could bounce back this season. 3 names come to mind. David Bednar has been one of the best closers in the game in recent years, but took a big step backwards in 2024. You see that ERA ballooning. Brian Hayes, we know the glove plays. He was an above-average hitter in 2023, but again, big step back last season offensively. And Jack Sawinski ended up spending the last couple months of the season in AAA after having a very promising breakout in 2023 with those 26 home runs. Now you think about some other guys that could turn the corner for them. They've had catching prospects in this system for a long time. Henry Davis, former #1 overall pick, tried him in the outfield a little bit in 2023, exclusively behind the plate in 2024 between the minors and the majors, and you see those numbers haven't been anywhere close to what he put up in the minor leagues. Same thing with Endy Rodriguez, a former top 100 prospect himself, also hasn't been able to put it together at the major league level yet. But you think about that catching position, they did acquire before last season Joey Bart, another guy who'd been a big-time prospect and struggled, and he turned the corner in a major way in his first season in Pittsburgh after a couple years in San Francisco. You see the highest OPS plus among catchers, only the Contreras brothers better last season. Wilson moving to first base, so if you want to talk current catchers, he'd be second on that list. Obviously, guys, the excitement around the Pirates last year was largely based on this man, Paul Skeens. When we did our top 10 right now exercise, I had him as the #2 pitcher in baseball behind Tarek Skubal. 196 ERA over those 23 starts, the best debut season that we've seen in the live ball era. Obviously, some impressive company on that list with Jose Fernandez and the Bird, Mark Fidrich. Now, you think about the pair they had at the top of that rotation for at least part of the season last year with Jared Jones. One of the better strikeout pitchers in the league, ended up missing some time with a strained lat from early July to late August, and just wasn't quite the same in those 6 starts when he came back. So a healthy Skeens and Jones at the top of the rotation, obviously something to look forward to this year in Pittsburgh. And then the wild card guys, we've been talking about him for a couple years, put together a nice season last year, 2020, but changed positions. The offense kind of fell off at the end of the season. Can O'Neal Cruz take that next step, a la Ellie De La Cruz, and get to 30-30, maybe even beyond that, become an all-star? H, curious your thoughts on the position change for O'Neal Cruz.
Well, I hated it. You know, I did a whole thing last year looking at just the plays. Remember, this guy missed a whole year with an injury. And then you come back and he makes plays that he's rushing himself. I think they were correctable. I really do. I thought this was a panic move. I did not like him moving. He's an attraction. You're in Pittsburgh. Who are you paying to go watch? I want to watch the 6'7" shortstop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the attraction. I don't know. I like that. I think this is really a tough one for me because I really like the Pirates. I've been a Pirate fan forever, all the way back to the We Are Family days. You have some ingredients. You know, you look at Jones and Skeens. You look at maybe Henry Davis comes around, but Bart as well. But Sawinski, he has a chance, man, to really be a really good player. And you got to figure out what's going on with Brian Hayes. He's too talented to be performing the way they are.
Yeah, there's a ton of ifs,
Yes.
right? If that young group of offensive players can come around. I do like the trade that landed them Spencer Horwitz. I mean, he's a very capable left-handed hitter. I think he's given a full complement of at-bats for a season. He'll produce. But I don't know where the 3-run homer is every night in the lineup, right? You're talking about a lot of ifs. Good pitching staff, and we were all hopeful that they'd support it. They'd support Jones and Skeens and Keller with some power acquisitions and make themselves a little bit more dynamic offensively. They didn't do that. So I think, you know, the natives are restless, man. The Yinzers want to win, and they wanted more activity on the roster this year heading into spring training. It's not to say that they won't still be good, but it's going to take everybody finding, you know, close to career years in that young lineup for them to compete with the Milwaukees and the Reds and the Cubs, who are a lot better in that division.
I would love to see them internally go, guys, what are we doing development-wise? Are we ready to make some adjustments? Our players are not getting to where they should be.
Yeah.
How do we make these adjustments? Internally, maybe they're having those conversations. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they have to look themselves in the mirror and say, we're better than this.
Yeah, I think we'd love to be surprised by the Pirates this year, Keith, and we're not closing the door on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Wide open division. It does seem like they're going to be the one team on the outside looking in, though.
Yeah, thank you. Good stuff, Keith. We'll continue our spring dreaming and talk about some other clubs as we move forward this week. But when we...
フィリーズはここ数年で着実に積み上げてきた実力を証明し続けているチームだ。ロブ・トムソン監督のもと、 選手たちは勝つために何が必要かを知っている。そして2025年シーズンもその強さをさらに際立たせるための準備は万全だ。アーロン、ノラとザック、ウィーラーという鉄壁のエースコンビ、さらにクリストファー、サンチェスやレンジャースアレスといった安定した先発陣、ここにヘスス、ルサルドが加わることで先発ローテーションの層はより一層厚みを増した。中継ぎ陣ではジョーダン、ロマーノが復帰し、ホセ、アルバラードやマット、ストロームとともに終盤のリリーフが一層盤石なものになりそうだ。打線についても昨シーズンから大きく変わることはないが、それこそがフィリーズの強みでもある。ブライス、ハーパーやトレイ、ターナーといった核となる選手たちが健在で、そこにマックス、ケプラーが加わることでさらなる厚みを増す。気になるのは左打者たちの対左投手成績だが、ブランドン、マーシュやブライソン、ストットが昨季の課題を克服できるかどうかに注目したい。ただし、エドムンド、ソーサやヨハン、ロハスといった右打者のオプションも揃っており、状況に応じた柔軟な起用が期待される。フィリーズにとっての課題は、シーズンを通して安定した戦いを続けられるかどうかだ。ここ数年、シーズンのある時期に突如として成績が落ち込む期間があった。特に8月や9月に入ると勢いが鈍り、思わぬ連敗が続くことも少なくなかった。ワールドシリーズを狙うためには、この失速期間をいかに防ぐかが鍵になる。チームの総合力は間違いなくリーグトップクラスであり、リーグ東地区の優勝争いはブレーブスとの一騎打ちになるだろう。一方、パイレーツにとっての今シーズンは、まさに挑戦の年だ。昨シーズンは前半戦を五分五分で折り返したものの、後半戦で失速してしまった。しかし、ポール・スキーンズとジャレット・ジョーンズという若き二枚看板の存在は、間違いなくチームの未来を明るく照らしている。スキーンズはメジャー1年目にして圧巻の投球を見せ、エース級の働きを果たした。彼が健康を維持し、ジョーンズと共にフルシーズンを戦うことができれば、パイレーツの先発ローテーションは大きな強みになる。さらに、ケブライアン、ヘイズやオニール、クルーズ、ヘンリー、デイビスといった若手や主人がどこまで成長できるかも重要なポイントだ。だが、課題も多い。特に打線は決定力不足が否めない。昨シーズンはチャンスでの一打がなかなか出ず、貴重な試合を何度も落としてしまった。今年こそは、クルーズが本領を発揮し、30本塁打、30盗塁を達成するようなブレイクの年になることを期待したい。スウィンスキーが昨季の不振を払拭し、強打の外野手としてチームを支えられるかも大きなポイントだ。また、補強面では期待されていたほどの動きがなかったこともあり、既存の選手たちがどれだけ成長できるかがシーズンの成否を分けることになりそうだ。パイレーツファンにとっては、近年の苦しい時期を経て、ようやく未来に希望を持てるような状況が生まれてきている。チームの内部でも、若手選手の育成について真剣に見直すべきタイミングかもしれない。期待された若手選手が十分に成長しないまま苦戦する状況を繰り返しているのは、単なる個人の問題ではなく、組織全体で考えるべき課題だ。スキーンズとジョーンズという2人のエース候補を中心に、チームがどのように進化していくのか、ファンとしても見守りたいところだ。シーズンはまだ始まったばかりだが、どのチームもそれぞれの目標に向けて全力で準備を進めている。フィリーズは優勝を目指し、パイレーツは再建の道を一歩ずつ進んでいく。開幕までの時間を使って、選手たちがどこまで仕上げてくるのか、そしてどんなドラマが待っているのか、今からワクワクが止まらない。ぜひ、皆さんの予想や注目ポイントもコメントで教えてほしい。そして、今後も最新の MLB 情報をお届けしていくので、チャンネル登録をお忘れなく。次回もお楽しみに。